How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over my recommended starter build for Gemma 1 Frostfire Gemma, and that is using Flame Jet here. This build with the current gear that I have on is probably around 20 FE, something like that. We are using the same Kingly armor and a corrupted marrow that you would have that we were using for Gemma 2. And then we are just using like a +1 spell gloves here, which are a few FE, depending on the base. And then you have Kingsmoon's boots here, which are a couple FE. The rings, you can either use these Cluster of Dark Clouds or Realms or Restless Glacier, Arctic Ring. All of these are all fairly comparable. It just depends on whatever's cheaper. And then same with like the Spring Resurrections, you'll pretty much just get while you're leveling. Same goes with Elemental Whisper Belt, which I don't think is actually doing too much for the build. The one thing you do want to buy, though, as it does kind of double your damage, is this 2 Extremes memory here. These are very, very inexpensive just because, for starters, people aren't really playing Gemma 1, and just this isn't really that sought after either way. So it is like 5 FE right now. Your damage does drop off a little bit without it, but it's not like the end of the world. Like, you're still doing more than enough to farm T7 comfortably without it. And then same thing goes for the memories. You're literally just looking for memories with some flat damage to spells and some movement speed or whatever. So these are pretty much just going to be about 1 FE. This one might cost you maybe somewhere up to 10 or 20, something like that. But if you just get one with just the plus max fusion without the other stuff, it's going to be really, really inexpensive. If you add in the second one, it starts to go up a bit, but with just the fusion itself is pretty much the most important. You're going to be more than fine with just that. In regards to the traits themselves, everything you are grabbing is just going to be increasing your total max amount of fusion energy here. Before you get this memory, say if you're playing this on League Start or an SSF and you cannot get this memory, my recommendation will be to actually play with Frozen Flame here rather than with Glacial Flames. Because with Frozen Flame here, what it's going to do is it's going to allow your Flame Jet to actually inflict Frostbite on hit. And as you can see, Flame Jet was actually hitting a lot of times, so we're constantly getting freezes on bosses and on enemies, which is going to help increase our damage and increase our clear. At level 80, you get Extreme Fusion, which is basically making it to where all of your lightning and cold and fire, they all kind of work for each other, all the bonuses for them. So that's why when you look at the actual skills that we have for Flame Jet here, we are able to use Freeze Chance, even though it's not a cold skill. Then same thing goes with like running the fire skills for cold skills, or the fire supports rather for cold skills, things like that. In regards to the supports, early on, while you do not have a lot of reap sources, you are going to want to run Reaping Agony here. Once you have gotten enough reap sources on your gear, you are going to end up wanting to swap this over to Fire Explosion. It is going to be more damage for the build, but early on, while you don't have other reap sources, you are going to want to run Reaping Agony here. And then we have Ground Divide and Control Spell and Cataclysm. These are going to follow pretty much just the same Reap Purification dot build that you're seeing with Gemma 2. We are running Starstalker here with Mania, cooldown reduction, and extended duration. And then we have Mana Boil with Well Fought Battle, Mania, and Mass Effect. You only need to click this once in a battle, so that's nice, or at the very beginning of the map, rather. And then we have Delayed Pain here with Defense Layers, extended duration, and cooldown reduction. And then I am running Blurry Steps. For your auras, you are running Elemental Amplification, Swiftness, Frigid Domain, Magical Source, and Elemental Resistance. And then we have a Curse on Hit here with Elemental Destruction. And then we are running an Auto Defense here with Frost Shield. And we are putting Deep Pain here on our life as well to seal life. And then for your candles, early on, you just basically, again, you're looking for a Soul Eater candle for movement speed. And then I just have another movement speed candle on right now, but of course you'd want one with either like +2 to fire spells or just a +1 max Terra quantity. Is what you're going to be looking for. In regards to the traits here, we are running Goddess of Knowledge. Because of the Frozen Flame trait that we were talking about, you are going to be running Winter here instead of Chilly. And then for leveling this build, you are going to be better off most likely running this build with just leveling as Ring of Ice, with Spell Burst and everything else. The typical Spell Burst, Ring of Ice kind of setup that you would normally run. But again, once you get your gear here and you actually get to 62 plus, you are going to want to run Winter. And then you do want to run Burning Touch because of the fact that you're on Gemma. You're actually getting 40% additional damage out of this because the cold and fire both apply to cold and fire, and lightning for that matter as well. For the tree, you do just want to be grabbing ES, the sealed mana, and the +1 to spells. And then under Elementalist here, same thing, ES, elemental damage, and then we are going over here to this sealed mana, some additional defenses here. We are taking this Focus Blessing that's going to give us tenacity and agility. If you do not have the Dark Cloud's Ring, you aren't going to want to grab these. You'll just want to grab more ES or something else instead. You can just grab these ES nodes instead if you don't want to grab those. And then we are grabbing this flat damage into the +1 fire here. For the traits, you do want to be taking Translucent. This again is going to be 60% damage for the build because again all the lightning, cold, and fire all apply to everything. And then you are just running Peculiar Vibe here. And then for the last tree is you are running Psychic. So once you get to about 62, 64, when you're actually able to get 36 points into Reap Purification here, Psychic will probably end up beating out Ring of Ice at that point. So you can go ahead and swap over to this build. And then again, we're just taking all the dot damage here, damage to crowd-controlled enemies, and then we are taking this like dot damage, and then sealed mana, reaping here, and then extra affliction, and things like that. For the actual traits here, we are taking affliction, and then we are taking reap purification, which this is what's carrying the most of the damage. And then for your slates, you just basically want slates that are either going to be +1 persistent, +1 fire, or +1 spells. Whatever you can get, whatever's going to be cheapest. You'll be able to find these very, very inexpensive. You know, they're talking under 5 FE each, something like that. You can get them pretty quickly, and then pretty much right away, the next transition for the build will be moving into running Versatile instead. So you'll want to get a Versatile pedigree, and we'll showcase that next step of the build in the next video. For your Pact Spirits, if you are looking to maximize damage on the build, you are going to be wanting to run 3 pets, all with this Affliction effect. Affliction effect is going to be your biggest damage source on the build. It is % more damage. So when you are actually going to gear out your character past the starter set here, you are basically going to be wanting to get weapons that have this damage to frozen enemies, but more than anything else is going to be, if you end up with wands, is you are going to be wanting to get your the affliction effect. But if you are going to go with the staff with the cast on crit build, your staff is going to look something like this, with your % additional spell damage, your % additional damage to frozen enemies, your curse effect, additional damage to life, and then just a lot of levels to spells. For your rings are going to be affliction effect and reaping cooldown recovery speed, and then same with your necklace and your belt are both going to have the affliction on them. So something like this, affliction effect with +1 to fire instead of cold, and then just some resistances here. And then for the belt, you'll have one with just a lot of affliction effect on it.